Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us during your lunch hour, lunch break, hopefully. My name is Catherine, and I have the privilege of hosting these chats that we have monthly, where I have an opportunity to chat with professionals, lived experts, and overall inspiring people within our communities. Snack and Chat is a recurring segment that we have where we come together to discuss topics that are top of mind to adoptive, kin, customary care, and permanency communities in Ontario and beyond. If you aren't familiar with who we are at Interwoven Connections, formerly known as Adopt for Life, we are a not for profit organization that provides free peer support, community education, advocacy, and awareness. You can learn more about us and gain access to valuable resources by ensuring that you both like and follow us on our public Facebook page here, or you can check us out on our website at www.interwovenconnections.ca. We'll make sure to put a link to our new incredible website as well in the comments. I know Julie's going to be talking a little bit more about that as we go on. We are just so excited and thrilled to be at this point, to be able to sit down and have a conversation with you guys about our new identity, about our new name, about all the changes and growth that are happening within our community and within the communities that we support as well. Before I formally share our guest, as well as, sorry, formally introduce our guest, as well as share how we'll be using this platform, I do want to take pause and acknowledge the lands that we are situated on today. I do understand that we're probably logging in from various places within this beautiful province. So I do ask you to take some time to reflect on your personal territory and treaty as I reflect on my own. So I personally reside in the traditional territory of Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, which is both includes the Chippewa, Nawash, unceded First Nations, and the Saugeen First Nations within Treaty 18. That is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people. We do this to reaffirm and confirm our commitment and responsibility in improving relationships between nations, and as a first step towards improving our own understanding of local Indigenous cultures and Indigenous peoples as a whole. To recognize and acknowledge the historic and ongoing devastating effects of colonialism and racism in the name of assimilation across Canada, and to consider how we each will, oh my goodness, and consider how we each can, in our own way, action forward in truth and reconciliation. As long as the sun shines, the grass grows, and the river flows. Thank you. I'm sorry my mouth got jumbled up for a lot of that. I recently moved, so I have been doing a lot of research on our new territory and treaties, and it's just been so amazing to be able to connect with the communities up here in my new region. We really want this to be an engaging and interactive hour for all of you. So please feel free to comment below. You can ask questions, engage with the content that we're talking about. We'd also love to know where you are logging in from. So please feel free to jot down your city in the comments and we can say a little hello to you. Please know that this segment is live and it is shared publicly on our social media platforms. So this means that it can be accessed at any time. So we just ask that you remain mindful of any personal information that you may share or make comment with, especially any information about children or minors within your care. Okay, that was a lot of intro. I'm now getting to the good stuff. I am so honored to be able to introduce to you our founder and executive director, Julie Despatie. Julie and I started these snack and chats, I don't know how many years ago. So it's so much nostalgia to have you on again and to talk about this growth because this has been a long time coming. I'm going to share just a little bit of an insert of who Julie is and her background, but you can get to know Julie a lot better on our website. And we'll make sure again that you guys have that link below. So Julie's dedication to supporting permanency for children and youth stems from her personal adoption journey, where she and her husband adopted a sibling group of 3 older children who are now all adults, which is crazy to me. Don't know how that. But this really prompted her realization of the need for more resources and advocacy and community connection for families across Ontario providing permanency. So, in founding Interwoven Connections, Julie really established a unified voice and provided invaluable peer support networks for adoptive and permanency caregivers. Julie has actively shaped legislation safeguarding and uplifting youth and families, co-founding the National Consortium of AFCA, spreading initiatives like the Time to Attach, which again is legislation campaign that helped support expanding EI benefits for families. With over 20 years experience in the not-for-profit sector, Julie and her team, inclusive of myself, have forged collaborative relationships with key stakeholders, including CAS, government bodies, partnering agencies across Canada, really in the name of advancing the cause of permanency and family preservation. Julie, I love having you on here. Thank you so much. And thanks for being with me for my intro.
It's a pleasure to be back with you, Catherine. It has been a while.
It has been. You just never get away because we always keep finding ways to have, and it's an honor to have time to talk about this, because I feel like on the back end, this is something that we have been doing for such a long time, and it just feels nice to actually be able to talk about it and to have a chat about it and be able to explain to everybody a bit of the background that most people don't usually see when it comes to changing your identity. So I guess the first question that I have for you, which I know the answer to, but I'm going to ask, is what kind of sparked this idea to switch from Interwoven Connection, or to switch from Adopt for Life to Interwoven Connections?
Well, I mean, first, as you mentioned in the intro, I grew my family through adoption. So Adopt for Life was really based on my journey of raising our family and growing our family. And so, but quickly on, once we received funding and started meeting with partners and CASs, we realized that our name was not necessarily going to be reaching everyone. And when we met with like the 2S LGBTQ community, they would say, so why is Adopt for Life? And what is your positioning? And we're like, oh, that has nothing to do. It's about the permanency, the long-lasting relationship that we create and the commitment that we do with our children. So very earlier on, we realized that that was something that we needed to do. But we were not ready because we were just starting to do our work. And so that's really where the beginning of that realization. And then as we kept on growing, we realized that there was a lot of communities that we were not reaching out, like that our name was creating barriers. Again, Adopt for Life was created because I grew my family through adoptions. But when we met with CASs and we were talking about our programming, they were saying, okay, well, we're supporting kins. And so, you know, adoption doesn't necessarily resonate with kinship caregivers. And so again, we knew that that was a barrier. And then Indigenous folks would have a, you know, like apprehension of trusting an organization that would be have the name of adoption part of their naming, and or the Black community and all of that. So we realized that we had to grow, to change our name, but that was quite the journey.
It was. And just to give a little bit of context, I'm probably jumping ahead, but that's what I like to do. Like, this was years and years in the making.
Yes.
We went through so many potential names and engaged with so many different communities to ensure that when this change was made, that it was made thoughtfully, and it was made with research, and it was made with the support and understanding from other communities. Because the last thing, you know, you had mentioned offline, Julie, like the last thing we want to do is have to change our name again. We don't want to.
Absolutely. Well, Catherine, to your point, I think it's been over 6 years that we've embarked. We started brainstorming. We had a board member that was doing this in his practice, and we started to play around with that. And then we realized that we had not nailed the right naming. So we paused and we kept on listening. And I think that, to the point that you are raising is that we connected with various stakeholders. We heard a lot from the young people, the adoptees themselves as well. We've listened to different communities about what would resonate. And so we wanted to really make sure that we would get a name that would resonate and that would not be forcing us to come back in another 10 years and change it.
Absolutely. And even if you think of like the term permanency, what that means, what that meant when we were adopting, when we were on our journey, is very different to what it means today. And I'm sure tomorrow it's going to keep growing as well. So I think finding a way to be able to have a community and supports that can grow with these changes, it's hard. Like it's difficult to try and find something, but um, being on the back end of things and kind of on the marketing piece, I'm just so honored to see the growth. And Julie, we started when I was first hired on. We were a small group of just a handful of us, and to see how our community has grown and to see how our team has grown and to have people talk about things that what permanency looks like and what the definition of family, what that means to them. And there's the formal processes and then there's the informal processes. And I think we have to respect that. And we kind of, as an organization who has a seat at the table, who has a voice, I do feel like we have an obligation to reflect all those pieces, which is difficult, but also humbling at the same time. Uh,
Absolutely.
I went on a little tangent there. So my question for you, how do you hope interwoven connections will click with the families that you support? So we kind of talked about um, why we did the change. Um, what are your hopes that our name can help do, and how it can actually make those connections and feel settled for families and those that we support?
So interwoven connection is really about um, it, our children. When they come into our life, they already have connections. They have different relations that they've created, and then if they've been in foster families, they also have relations that they've created. And us as parents, caregivers, we also have our own connections. So to us, interwoven connection is about bringing us together. It's about fostering the relationship that our children have created, because every healthy attachment is really important to keep on fostering and growing. And for us as a community of peers, it's really like we come together, we interwove together, or we entrelace together, um, so that we really become stronger. And it's really the roots of what we are existing to be, is to be this space of connectivity, the space of learning and growing alongside of one another and exchanging that, and also share, like giving this to our children so that they can continue with this journey. So I really hope that as our community grows to the community that we already have right now, that is with us for the past 10 years, I hope that they really find that it resonates with them. But change takes time to adjust, so that we know that some people were really attached to the adopt for life, and we were, and on the other side of the change, we were lucky to have the time to adjust to it. So we understand that this takes time, but what we're truly hoping is as well is that the um, the folks that are not aware of our services, or that were told that, oh, you should join Adopt for Life because they will be able to support you, and they were like, that doesn't resonate with me. In fact, recently I had the privilege to attend the ARE with one of our colleagues who had grown her family through kinship. And I asked I said, how, like, what made you come to us, as Adopt for Life? And she said, well, I thought it was really strange that I was told that I should connect with an organization that was Adopt for Life. But I needed the support, so I did. And today she's part of our community. But I want to make sure that those who are wanting to belong to a community, to tap into peers that have that shared lived experience, that they don't have the naming as a barrier to prevent them from joining. And so that goes to all communities that we're still, maybe not servicing today, because maybe they are informal. You mentioned that earlier. Maybe they're informal kinship caregivers, and they don't realize that the support in the community that we have created could be of help.
100%. And I really loved how you talked about, bringing in the connections and weaving in those other relationships in there. Because if you look at our community and you're actually in some of our support groups, the amount of relationships and different relationships, and some families have big and multiple connections, other families have little connections, but at the same time we're all together. We're still, and it's everyone's experiences that kind of brings us together and that gives us that strength. So I know that when Van, who is our art director, who's also one of our original the original crew, with Interwoven Connections, she took a lot of time in trying to find an image that reflected those threads. And I remember one of the comments, I think it was you, Julie, that our image is a little bit kind of crooked, is a little bit off, and you're like, but aren't we all just a little bit? Nothing's perfect, and no one's perfect. But it's reflective of reality and of who we are. And I am hopeful that people will get kind of used to the new name, and that thankfully we are doing a smaller a soft launch as much as we can. This is actually
Yes.
one of the questions, is around like the timelines of things. So it took us years and years to get to this point, and we aren't done. Right? So yes, on our socials our name has changed, but we still have lots to do. We still have more to do. So I'm just wondering, like, in your perspective, like, what are ways that you find that we're still trying to help support the community during this brand and during this change, and kind of like, I don't think there's necessarily a set timeline for this, but I'm just wondering, like, how have you been able to support families during this change? Because it's been tough.
I mean, it's been a slow transition. So from within, just working with our board, working with the team, and letting them know and getting them used to it, that has helped. And also, like as you mentioned earlier, like we networked with various stakeholders and folks, to truly make sure that everybody would get accustomed to it. We've done a bit of branding messages, like that things were changing, that that we were going to be coming into a new identity that would reflect more the growth and the journey where we want to go and evolve. But like our services is not changing. Our team is not changing. We've received a lot of feedback. I don't know for you, Catherine, but I've received some really nice and warm feedback of saying, wow, I really like, from folks that we were not servicing before, or that knew of us, but were not necessarily referring to us, that really, really loved the name. And some of the older, the original community parents that have been there for about 10 years-ish, saying, oh, Julie, I was attached. I was attached to the Adopt for Life's name. I see where you're going. It might take me a bit of time, but so I'm hoping that the bits by bits, and as you could see, like you mentioned Van and your team, your marketing team, you have done such a beautiful work in I mean, if folks, if you have not had a chance to go and look at our website, please go and do it. You'll see the imagery, the icons, everything is like, it's really more where we are wanting to be and who we are wanting to show up as. And I think that that really speaks, you'll see we're transforming and we're not done transforming, it's a long journey to fully embrace, but we've got fortunate to have had the time to get there. And I think that for those who are questioning, feel free to speak with your team, to your peer connectors, and your former
Parent liaison, yes.
RPLs. Thank you. I was looking for my word. And even for me, recently, I'm out right now at a conference, and I have to introduce myself, and I'm looking because I'm not used to introducing Interwoven connection. I close with but really I think that there's so much intentionality behind all of the design that has been created so that it would resonate. It would also resonate with our young people so that when they see it, they can feel like they can associate, like feel like it means something to them. It looks very positive from a lot of the communities that we're wanting to really go and start networking with and supporting. But for those who are, struggling, feel free to drop us a line. Feel free to reach out. I'm happy to talk about this and to listen and to hear, and answer any questions. Absolutely.
100%. It's growing pains. And I was joking a little bit before, Julie, with you saying like people within our communities know that change is hard. We've lived through change. We know transitions are not easy, even for us as parents and caregivers. I know that on our social platforms, more specifically like our support groups, our Facebook support groups, we were very intentional of keeping the name in there. So although it used to be Adopt for Life Dad Zone, it's now Interwoven Connections Dad Zone, but we still wanted to keep the names the same so that when people are searching, someone had commented saying like, I'll never be able to find these groups. And I get that because your brain automatically goes to what you know. So it's almost like a
Yeah.
little bit of brain training we need, but we did try and keep the groups the same so that at least you will be able to find us again.
But we're not the only one that has been changing our names, and this is the reality, is adoption has been really transforming, and we're looking at different ways. We're looking at kinship a lot more. We know that kids do better when they're staying within their community, so making sure but we don't want to have a name that is kinship or that is adoption, or because we're evolving, but we want to have a name that is embracing of all that we do. And I think like we were bold, but in our desire to rename ourselves, to define our new identity, and we wanted to have a short name that would be not necessarily stating one thing, because we are growing always. We are not who we were 10 years ago when you started, or 7 years ago when you
Yes.
started, Catherine. The organization is turning 10, but Adopt for Life was funded just over 7 years ago. And so we have evolved and we keep on evolving. And so I think that really is important, that we didn't pigeonhole ourselves into a small place that would prevent us from growing and continually meeting the needs of the community that we're supporting and wanting to, and so.
Absolutely. And I know even within the AFCA communities as well, a lot of feedback that we get is so many people who are not even a part of our community, adoption, kin, customary care, or permanency communities, they want access. They want to be able to get support. And who knows where things are going to grow in the next 10 years in that realm of things. So
Just to add to this, Catherine, like family preservation is something that we know is important. And so as we keep on growing and we're wanting to make sure that we can support kids, but we also want to make sure that when and where possible, that we can help support families who, are at risk of entering the child welfare, especially with the AFCA you were just mentioning. We're not just there yet, but we intentionally are seeding the way to get there. And that's really, really important. So having a name that is bold, that is open and enveloping and welcoming, allows us for us to keep on growing and really remaining attuned to learning from the community that we're part of and also supporting.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think that's important that all of this change, all of the changes that we've made ever, whether it's all of a sudden we have a new service or we have a new support group or something else happens to something as big as an entire new identity, came from the community, came from that feedback. And so I think that's the strength of who we are, is that regardless of what name we end with, the strength is our community. And I think that's going to kind of speak to itself, and that speaks for itself, is that we are the community that we support. We live it, right? So
Absolutely. And one thing that we didn't talk about is the fact that our name is French as well.
oh
Connexion
yes.
entrelacée, right? To me, Adopt for Life didn't translate into French very much, but interwoven connection and connexion entrelacée is really so it's more inclusive, it's more representative of our province, our country, and so that's really, really important.
It really is. And I think that um when you think of growth, and this is one of the questions, is where do we want to see the growth? I think that obviously AFCA is one that we're seeing a lot of feedback about, but also you had mentioned like French communities who need that support, who there it's harder to have support for families who may be speaking French, or for families who, like you said, indigenous communities who have customary care. The term adoption is actually something that is triggering for a lot of communities, and they feel unwelcome because of that term. And if we want to think back to systematic oppressions and what adoption meant for so many communities historically
Yeah.
and happening today, um, we do have that obligation to have a community that reflects and that is respectful of that history, as well. But I see it, our growth is endless. And every day when we wake up and we connect with our communities and we hear our peer connectors who were formerly our RPLs having those conversations with families, that really is shaping where we know that we need to be going, and is shaping the resources and is shaping the webinars and what we're having. So I think from my end, I guess my hope is that the growth is going to be continuing to be organic from the ground and from the needs of the community. Um, is there any other growth that I mean, you're coming from our founder and our executive director, so you are seeing things from such a bigger picture. Are there things that for you that you really would like to see more growth in, or you can see interwoven connections becoming?
Well, I mean, first of all, I want to say that it's amazing when you have a desire to bring a community together and you gather folks that are like that are sharing that same passion. You can create a lot of amazing outcomes, and by as an organization, um, we don't only um, we don't only have a mission, we are also living by that mission because we live that experience. So we always are attuned and listening to the pulse of the community. That is how we have uncovered AFCA, which is aggression towards families and caregivers during childhood and adolescence. For those who don't know, but it's really like being connected with the community we're servicing, and not only the one we're doing today, but the ones we're aspiring to go. So as we're coming to lead forwards, I'm hoping that we will be able to listen, lean in, and learn. Try, seek guidance where we may not have the experience. Bring in new team members that will reflect that will be able to grow. We talked about family preservation. I think that in Ontario right now, that is something that is really, really important.
Yeah.
It's part of one of the pillars of our government. And so, what kind of role can we play in that? How can we and help families have the strength that they need? And this is the reason why we started our our organization is to empower parents and caregivers so that they can be strong for their children. So what else can we do and learn from there? And we would love to see doing more and more AFCA work, because we know that the loneliness of experiencing um, that in the day-to-day life makes it really difficult to find the strength to overcome and withhold the tornado that can happen in our homes. But when we come together as a community, that helps us. So I think that we're really looking forward to continue to expand the support that we're doing, and to also continue learning truly from those that are trusting us in their parenting journey, and teaching us their about their own experience and their needs. And I think that that's really what matters the most.
100%. I couldn't have said it any better myself. um, I think that just hearing your reflection on where we want to go, the possibilities are endless, and I think that we're in a place of such growth, but like you said, listening and learning, and sometimes relearning, and knowing where
Mhm.
we've made mistakes, and stepping into that, and um, being able to move on. So a lot of times we're having conversations. Even happened this week. We heard that there were conversations with communities who were not comfortable engaging with our organization because of the name, or because of
Mhm.
because of the number four. People are very specific with their comfort levels, right? So we're seeing that growth already, which is just incredible to me, because I feel like this has been like our little nest egg that we've been holding on to for so long, and we're here. So um it's going to take time, and it's going to take a while, and even me, I sometimes slip up and say RPLs instead of peer connectors, but I think that's just part of the growing pains of it all, right?
I think we have to be gentle with ourselves. This is a change, and change, like to become a second nature takes a lot of time. We have had a jump start, but again, rolling out Interwoven connection is not always easy because it's different. But yeah, no, definitely. And you're mentioning the peer connectors. Again, I think that that's a reflection of, you know, um, of the organization, of where we're going and who we are. I think because now it's not only a parent liaison, it's a peer connector. So it means kinship, it means parents, it means so many other things. So I think that we're going to get there slowly, but this is a journey, and it's definitely not a marathon. We've taken it slow. And but I have to admit that I might be a little biased here, but I think that a lot of the identity that is being created, the language that is being shared with the community, with our stakeholders, all of the wording, all of the personality that's being created, and the look and the feel of Interwoven connection, there's a lot of intentionality behind it. And I think that, well, I'm hopeful that folks will receive it nicely.
I think so. I think that's been my overall impression, at least. And it's interesting how you talked about like everything was done so intentionally. I wish, and maybe we can do this, a way for us to share. So our art director, Van, like she did a whole color brand deep dive.
Yes.
Every color that is chosen for our brand is very specific, and she did hours of research behind each color and what they mean and what the combination of that means. So it's not just we liked these colors. There's actually a whole science behind it. Um, so for me, who I don't have any foot in that kind of realm, it's just so beautiful to see the reasoning behind it. And I think that as we continue to grow and as we get more settled, we'll be able to share a bit more of those pieces with everybody, because I think it's just outstanding. And for us to look at other partnering organizations who have gone through this. We've learned a lot through them as well. So we are, like you
Yeah,
said, we are
big
diverse.
shout out. Big shout out to the Belonging Network in BC and the Ever More Center in Saskatchewan. This
Yeah,
is
and the
really
Permanency
like they have
Council,
done it.
like
Yes.
all of them, we're taking little bits and pieces from them and be like, okay, this is awesome to see, and to learn from them, and for those who are watching and knowing that this is, we're still learning and we're still growing and we're still making shifts. So if you do have feedback, or if you see something that just doesn't reflect, or that's something that you want to give us feedback, we're open to that. You are the community, we are the community, and we want to hear your feedback. And if you're noticing anything with our graphics, we did have feedback from some of our banners and it being reflective of community, and that's fantastic feedback, and we can make those changes. And we want to hear that. So yes, please reach out to us. You can email us at info@interwovenconnections.ca, or you can message us on our Facebook platform. Any of our public platforms will come to me, so you can always find me, so don't need to worry. If there's ever any questions or concerns, we've also gotten a lot of messages of support from community as well, which is always fantastic to hear. Julie, thank you so much for coming and chatting. And we got completely off script with the questions, but this is just how we go. So I appreciate again you coming, and it's just awesome to have you on and be able to chat with you. I got you by myself for like 45 minutes. This is a rare thing. Very busy person. So I appreciate that so much.
Thank you, Catherine. It was really nice to be with you. And I love those snack and chats every now and then. So it's wonderful. And big hello to the community.
I'm gonna reel you back in for something else, so don't worry, you're not off the hook completely. I'm sure in a few months we'll have something else for you. I just wanted to quickly shine a light that next month we actually have two snack and chat series. We have a special edition that's coming up on June 4th around familial trauma, and I'm probably not pronouncing that right, and blocked care. And that's going to be with Tanya and Jen, who are a part of our community, who are two of my co-workers. And then later on in the month, we're actually going to be engaging with a professional and talking about FASD and mindset. So we're going to talk about fixed and open mindset and how that impacts children and youth with FASD. So we are so excited for both of those coming up. So you'll be seeing more information popping up. But again, thank you guys so much for joining us during your lunch hour. Make sure that you are liking and following us so that you can get alerts for when we are live for these monthly sessions. And we will see you guys soon. Take care.